Alright guys, welcome to our tire changing video. If you've already watched the Essentials course, you're going to recognize these two tools here. We've got our bead breaker as well as our speed tire changer. First thing we're going to want to do is grab our tire here, and depending on what type of rims you have, you may or may not have bead locks on your rims. If you do have bead locks, we're going to need to remove those. If you don't, you're just going to want to go ahead and make sure all the air is out of your tire prior to starting this process. What we'll do is we'll just remove our bead locks here. Going to do that on both tires. Alright, bead locks removed. First thing we're going to want to do, we're going to grab our bead breaker tool, drop our tire in, and we'll just go ahead and break the beads. And we'll actually have to lift this arm up to do the rear tire. Tire in. Flip it. And break the beads. Alright, done with that tool. Now what we'll want to do is we'll grab our speed changer, and you're going to need to find a way to mount this thing to the ground. We're going to be pulling on it, tugging on it, and it'll make your life a lot easier if this thing is bolted down. Just like so. Got 3 spacers here, and what you'll notice is we've actually got this piece that's kind of cone shaped, and what it'll do is it'll actually sit down in your rim to keep your rim centered once we start changing the tire. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put this valve stem down so the inside of the tire is up. Drop in our spacer there. You're going to want to nip this nut up pretty good. You don't want this thing spinning on you. And then what you'll do is you'll grab one of your paddles here, and you're going to get underneath this edge and just simply pull it up like so, and then just spin it around. And then you can pull this other side off by hand. And these tires, we're just going to flop them. Obviously, if you had new tires, go ahead and drop it on there, but these ones we're just going to flop. Drop that on like so. Grab our paddles. Make sure you get that guy up underneath the lip there. What I like to do is prop this up against my leg like so. Just pop it on. Rear tire mounted. And with these rear tires, Bridgestones particularly, we'll want to flip it over so valve stem's actually up at this point. Make sure that's centered in there. And this is just for these Bridgestones. What we're going to want to do is we're actually going to want to get this bead to seat before we start trying to fill air. So what we're going to want to do is just pull up on this thing. and get that top bead in just like so. That's gonna make things a lot easier when we go to put air in this thing. And I only have to do this on Bridgestones, Vincos, or MGs. I've never had to do that. Same thing with the front, valve stem down, centering spacer. Nip our nut up a little bit. Front tires you can usually do by hand. So just go ahead and pinch it, pull it up over the lip, just like so. Grab our paddles. When I'm saying get under the lip, this is what I'm talking about. This piece right here is actually gonna fit right up underneath the lip, and it'll spin around like that, and use this as a fulcrum to give you some leverage. Front tires mounted. Let's get this changer out of the way here. So before we go to put air in these things, we're gonna need to get our bead locks back in. You're not gonna wanna thread these in all the way. You're just gonna wanna put them in 1 or 2 turns just to hold them in place so air doesn't come leaking out when we get to filling these things up. Let me go turn on some air so we can get these things fired up. In full disclosure, brand new tires can be kind of sketchy to fill up. Sometimes they take quite a bit of pressure to get them to seat. These are used tires, so I'm sure these will probably be pretty easy. We're just gonna fill them up and we're gonna wait for both the beads to seat in. Go ahead and tighten our bead locks. And what I like to do is store them with 15 pounds in them. That way I'm usually letting air out instead of having to put air in when I get to the track. All right, so let's do our rear tire. If you remember when we mounted these, we set this top bead first, and that's because these are 210 millimeter rims. They're a little bigger than the tire, which makes it a little harder to get air in them. As you'll notice, look at all that space we got there. And if you don't have that top bead set, these things are borderline impossible to get mounted. So what we'll do is we'll just drop our bead locks in just like we did on our fronts. And what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna try to push this tire down as far as we can. So what I do is I push it down and then I kind of try to hold it with my legs. You don't wanna squish it or else you'll never get it mounted. So we'll just kind of push that down as far as we can. Grab some air. Like I said, these things are a nightmare, and these are used tires. Brand new tires are even worse. tighten up our bead locks. Drop this down to 15. And there you go, front and rear tires mounted. All right, so to finish up, the last thing I want to do is show you how to change your valve stems. You can buy these tools right here. This makes the job a whole lot easier. All you'll do is you'll grab your rim, you'll put your valve stem through the hole like that, grab our little valve stem tool, and what we'll do is we'll actually screw it onto the top of the valve stem. Just like so, and then it's just a matter of simply pulling it through, and you're done. You'll definitely want to grab one of these tools. It makes it a lot easier. And when you want to remove one, you can try picking them out of here, but what I do is I just cut this off. Go ahead and pull your valve stem out, and you're done.